greatest football podcast in the world.
Unbelievable stuff here, Jeff. I'm telling you now.
World Cup Willie, Euro 2012.
Hello, and we're back with the World Cup Willie podcast, European 2012. And we, this week, will not be joined by Josh again due to some unforeseen circumstances. But we will talk about England, the groups, our predictions, and a few aspects of the tournament that we fear are failing at the minute and how they could be rectified. And without further ado, I'll hand over to Tom, who's going to bring up England's 1-1 draw with France.
So England won, France won. I suppose that's a pretty respectable score considering. Thought we played pretty well.
I don't think any team, anyone wanted to go on to win it with the case that they might lose the game, so I think they were both settling for the draw from the start of the game, to be honest.
Yeah, I think if we wanted to win it, we could have won it, but that wasn't the game we were playing.
I think we looked better on the counter attack than France did, but I think we kept them at arm's length. I don't think we come under any serious threat at any point in the game.
I think the thing, obviously it's a good point for both teams providing they win their second game, but if they don't win their second game it should be seen as a missed opportunity, because for France they dominated possession and they sort of dominated proceedings without ever really creating any meaningful chances, resorting to long range shooting.
Yeah, I think that was down to probably our tactics. We were happy to let them have as much of the ball as they wanted. They just weren't making it.
As soon as they got into certain areas though, I think we kind of pressed it, make sure they didn't go any further.
It seemed as if, England had this system where there was the defensive bank, the defensive line was very deep, and then they had Parker anchoring just in front of them, which almost made it impossible for France to break down, because once you've got the ball out wide and the full-backs were there, and then through the middle you had Parker and then the two centre-backs, I think in the future perhaps it would be better to see the wingers track a bit better defensively, because I thought Milner defended pretty admirably, but Oxlade-Chamberlain at many occasions failed to track his man.
It's the only problem, it's not sort of his game though, is it?
It's not his, but maybe in a game against Sweden and Ukraine you can get away with that. But when you're playing the better nations with deliveries like that, and I don't think France offered what you'd have expected of them, but maybe if they'd have played to the top of their game, that would have been something that would have lived to haunt England, I think.
I don't think Benzema really turned up for that game either, to be honest. Did you see him? Didn't think he played very well. I don't know about you guys.
So let's go through the first major talking point of the game was, I think it was Ashley Young played Milner through. He's rounded the keeper.
Should have scored.
That's a difficult chance. But he's a right-footed player, to be fair, but I think he could have scored.
I think he could have. If he's a right-footed player, could he not have taken a goalie the other way?
Probably could have. He probably had enough time to put it
on
on
his
his
right. I know it's kind of respectable that he stayed on his feet, but if you're wanting England to win, aren't you screaming at him to leave his foot in there and go down? Goalie's got to go then.
I don't think he's that sort of player.
No, I don't think he is. If it was Milner putting it through to Ashley Young, you'd have put your house on him.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's the goal he sent off. That's a penalty. Even if you miss a penalty, you got the man advantage for 75 minutes.
Yeah. I want to play it that way. A lot of other countries would have done, so don't see why not. I think maybe Carroll up front instead of Welbeck.
I thought Welbeck played pretty well.
I did think he played alright, but I thought the France defence looked edgy, and if they had a big muscly guy up there pushing them about a bit, we could have...
Maybe. But I thought Welbeck did pretty superb.
I think he did play well, yeah, I'm not going to lie.
He's my man of the match.
I thought Welbeck was... without ever looking like a threatening striker, like he's ever going to score in the game wherever I have a chance, I think he held the ball up pretty well, and he brought players into...
It was difficult for him to Hodgson plays.
It was a pretty thankless task playing up front by himself in a game where England didn't really look to attack or even try and win the game at any point.
I think we are going to see that a lot from Hodgson, though. The way he sets up his teams.
I'd be pretty frustrated to see him do that in the next game against Sweden and Ukraine.
I think we have got to push on.
I think that's... Especially in the next game where they really need to get a win under their belts, because, as I said to you two earlier in the week, I don't see any circumstance where England want to be going into the game against Ukraine where they have to win and a draw's not good enough.
So, especially in their home fans.
Exactly.
Without getting ahead of ourselves, the next talking point was Lescott, the goal, the first goal.
Great delivery.
Yeah, brilliant cross from Gerrard. The free kick had to be retaken because there was a bit of shoving in the box. So I think
Cheers, ref.
French are architects of their own downfall, as we've come to expect from the French. But great header.
It's a good header.
It was a good header.
He's had to reposition himself
It was
pretty
a great,
well.
great delivery from Gerrard. I mean, it's absolutely on the money. And Lashcott, that's what, it seems to be like a bit of a common trait for England at tournaments that centre-backs always seem to pop out of a goal.
Yeah.
I remember Sol Campbell scoring in at least 2 different tournaments. And then I think John Terry scored as well. So.
Ferdinand scored in 2002. So
I wasn't surprised to see a centre-back score.
Just would like to see some strikers chip in.
Yeah.
Nasri got equaliser about 10 minutes later.
Great strike.
Great strike.
I think
Shocking defending.
Yeah.
I think Hart would any other day maybe would save that, and he expects himself to save.
When
it
I
as
saw
well.
that at first, I thought it was poor goalkeeping. On the replay,
He is unsighted.
yeah, he's not seen that till quite late on. I think, not only did he not see it, but when the ball come through, another defender ran across his line of vision. I don't see how Nasri's got that sort of space 20 yards from goal anyway, when he's got his ability.
I think our midfield has let us down there. 'Cause I think we had like 6 players
Well,
in
throughout
our
the
own
game,
18-yard box.
obviously not at this point, but later on in the game, it just seemed to me that Gerrard and Parker seemed absolutely exhausted after an hour.
Parker I can kind of understand.
Well, he's been injured, hasn't
Yeah.
he? But, whether Gerrard's still carrying an injury of some sort, because he seemed... I'd never expect Steven Gerrard to be one to run out of gas.
Maybe he was doing more off the ball than we saw. He brought on Jordan Henderson. Any talk?
I don't think he did anything wrong, did he?
He didn't.
I think he got booked, but
He didn't seem to have a lasting impact in the game.
Got a bit of energy
Either
into
way,
it,
really.
he was alright.
Usual Henderson, isn't it? Doesn't
What would
make
you
an
say of
impression.
Oxlade-Chamberlain and how he played?
I'd like to see him have a bit more of a free role, to be honest. Because we saw little snippets of it, didn't we? Where you can see what he can do. He can easily win a game for England. I think definitely him and Young, if they played well, I think England will win games.
Yeah, I think he performed well. Just a little bit isolated on the left-hand side. I think I would have preferred to see Walcott come on a bit earlier, maybe for Chamberlain. We get the speed, but
I'd like to see them both on the pitch.
I like the fact that they started Chamberlain. I think first half he offered something that maybe Downing and Milner don't offer. It's just like the fact he'll run at his defender and he'll cause a bit of havoc. But
Very strong as well.
I think he was quite negligent to his defensive duties, which is something that Hodgson will no doubt instill into him, that he needs to be resourceful and track his winger, especially when his winger was Frank Ribery.
in terms of a competitive debut, though, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think he did alright for an 18-year-old, definitely.
He can only improve.
And I'd definitely play him in the next game as well.
So as you say, we got Sweden coming up. Any changes you'd expect Hodgson to make?
Off the top of the head, I can't see
can't
where
see
he'd make
it.
one unless there's an injury.
I maybe put Walcott in for Milner, get a bit more attack in.
Well,
Chamberlain, Walcott running at people. It's going to scare them.
Watching Sweden against Ukraine, their defence was shockingly slow.
Wasn't Olof Malmö playing it right back?
It's like 50 years old.
So surely the prime attack there would be to get a pacey winger running at Olof Malmö. Olof Malmö is a great defender, but he's certainly lacking pace. So if you could get him behind him...
I think people do fear Walcott, for his pace. I think if you stick him there, even if you don't play well, people will fear him anyway.
Yeah.
I think you could get away with a Stuart Downing's pace in that game as well. Stuart Downing's not slow.
Does that mean
Malmö's
you'd have
really
to,
not
you'd have to
slow.
move Oxlade over or take him out of the team?
Well, unless you drop Milner. Because I don't think... Milner didn't have a horrific game, but he didn't...
Milner looked
Didn't set
knackered
it
after
alight,
60
did he?
minutes to me.
Yeah, exactly. That was 3 of the 4 English midfielders, but seemed exhausted with half an hour to go.
They were chasing shadows for a lot of it.
Yeah.
That's another thing of England, the complete lack of attacking flair, and I think it was out of every single team's first game, they had the least shots on target. They had 1, which you can't knock the chance conversion rate at that.
Yeah.
But then they had made the least amount of passes as well and had 35% possession.
I think you've got to let Gerrard be a bit more free, I think, to pull strings maybe.
But then that's meant to be Ashley Young's role now. You can't you can afford to have 2 centre midfielders in a free attacking role, and then
yeah, I suppose going to leave us open at the back.
When we get Rooney back,
Barry.
when we get Rooney back for that Ukraine game, I'd imagine those shots on target would improve.
I imagine Young will go to the wing, Rooney will go into
Yeah.
Young's role, and then we'll just see from there. But it could, unless a win against Sweden, it could be a moot point like that.
We're going to
Like
have to
that
win
third
against
game.
Sweden.
I think Sweden. I don't say it's a must win, but I'd say it's a should win. A really could do with winning.
I would say it is a must win. If we want to win the group and avoid probably Spain, I'd say we have to win both of our games and we have to beat Sweden quite comfortably by 2 or 3. Because I can see France beating Ukraine. I can see us beating Sweden. By then, Sweden will have nothing to play for. So France will beat them pretty. Ukraine.
Well, you'd also bring up if England beat, it's quite a negative way of looking at it, but if England beat Sweden, France beat Ukraine, if England won by a couple of goals, it would mean Ukraine would have to overcome a bit of a goal difference swing to knock England out of the group.
That's true. So, rest of the tournament then. We've talked about England, we've talked about Group D. Go to Group A, and the whole tournament kicked off with Poland, Greece. Anyone remember anything from that?
I remember
the first half being Greece weren't very good.
Well, Poland seemed to just really take the game to Greece early, and then second half.
I think they should have closed it off.
They completely backed off from what they'd done first half. They could have been 3 or 4-0 up at half time, were 1-0 up, well worthy of their lead, but then second half completely fell asleep.
Especially with the sending off, which
I
may I say was a shocker from the ref. But
for the Greece player,
Yeah.
embarrassing. The first booking was absolutely disgraceful, and the second one you could sort of see what he was implying, but even then that seemed a bit harsh.
I think we were a bit too quick to dismiss Poland as an actual force in that group. I was watching that and thinking they're a lot better than we think they are.
But are they a force?
I don't think they are.
Because it is coming second in that group of force.
No, well, it's better than what we were saying. So they'll be lucky
Yeah, well,
to
I
pick up a point.
thought they would be lucky to pick up a point.
They took the game to Russia the other night.
They were worthy of their point against Russia as well, to be fair.
They're just lacking a little bit of clinical finishing.
I don't think we can see them going any further, though, to be honest. Can you?
What have they got? They've got Czech Republic. In that game, both of those teams are going to be wanting to win.
Well, the winner goes through, don't they?
Pretty much,
if
yeah.
It's a draw, Czech Republic go through. So Poland have to win.
I can see Poland doing that.
It wouldn't shock me if either of them went through. But let's look here realistically.
Will they go any further?
They're playing for the right to lose to Germany.
Pretty much.
There's no way. I think you could. I don't know what to say, but you could make some sort of outrageous. I would do this, I would do that if they beat Germany, because it's just not going to happen.
I'll eat my hat.
He'll eat his hat if one of them beats Germany, because no, Germany are pretty much in the semi-finals.
But once you get into the knockout stages, it
does change a little bit. But
it's just one-off games from there on.
Germany
No
has got too much quality, haven't they?
Although I do like the idea of a Poland-Germany quarter-final with the history between the two nations.
Yeah.
All
Kickoff.
In Poland.
Yeah, I don't fancy that for the police.
Talking about Group B, Germany, Group B, Holland not living up to anyone's expectations.
The thing with Holland is the first game they lost to Denmark.
They should have won.
But let's not kid ourselves that they deserve to lose. They had about 30 shots on target, 70% of possession,
isn't it?
And they weren't clinical at all. They didn't finish their chances.
Van Persie let them down a little bit.
Van Persie had a shocker. Robin was too busy moaning at everything rather than playing the game.
Robin doesn't seem to get his head up. He doesn't look. He just every time he gets the ball, his head down.
No, I think there was one point, I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Robin actually. But the Denmark goalkeeper gave a goal kick away softly to the striker.
Was that when he hit the post?
And he hit the post. Yeah. And rather than following up the rebound for an easy tap in, I think it was Robin just stands there moaning he didn't get the pass.
Yeah,
it's play to the ball's out of play and then go and have a little moan at him. It just seemed a bit disjointed, the Holland team from the team from 2 years ago.
The thing that annoys me about Robin is just every time. You got to mix it up. Sometimes run at the defender, sometimes pass. He just seems to run every time. No doubt he's got quality. I'm not doubting that.
But just one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Denmark picked up the win, as you say. You can say all you like they've had 30 chances or whatever, but at least Denmark knew how to score.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. On the balance of play, there's no denying Holland should have won the game. 99 times out of 100, they'd probably won the game, to say a cliche. But Denmark took their chance,
And of course, Holland played Germany yesterday. A lot of people were expecting quite a fiery affair, and it didn't sort of finish that way.
I think Germany kind of just took the sting out of it early.
That's what they do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mario Gomez. He's been I've seen him play time and time again. He played yesterday out of his skin for however long he was on the ball.
Couple
But he's
of good
been
finishes.
shocking every time I've seen him.
Who tipped him to be the top goal scorer.
There's every chance now, isn't there?
Yeah, mine's doing well.
It's like 3 goals already.
Let's get on to Portugal with my top scorer, Ronaldo.
Ronaldo, eh? He knows where the goal is.
Oh, top goal scorer in that game, Nicholas Bentner.
Unbelievable.
Anyone that watches the Premier League knew this was coming.
Oh, God.
Clinical
goals.
finisher, Nicholas Bentner.
Um,
But what was it for this last game now? Is it Holland against Portugal? Theoretically, if Holland win that game, they can still go through.
Holland don't have a bad goal difference.
No,
If they
well, it's
beat
minus
Portugal,
2.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Portugal's
yeah,
is
of course
level, and then Denmark's is level. So if all Holland have to do is win that game and hope Germany beat Denmark, and they're through.
Germany are going to beat Denmark.
So it's not a lost cause for Holland.
I can see them beating Portugal. I don't see why not.
It's not out of the question for them to go through in this group. And if they went through in this group, it's probably not out of the question for them to beat Russia, which is just strange that you could lose your first 2 games
Yeah,
and quite easily be in the semi-final.
It happens.
it can happen.
They could push
It
on.
shouldn't
as well.
happen,
They
though,
could get better.
That if Portugal could have just held on against Germany, or Denmark would have just held on against Portugal.
I'd love to see Denmark go through in that group. That would.
And it's just like Poland, we've been a bit dismissive to Denmark.
Yeah,
They're
we always
actually
knew they
a
were
really
really good
side,
team.
but
Let's be honest, before the tournament, we weren't the only ones saying Poland will come last or Denmark will come last.
No, yeah.
There was no reason to think Denmark could do anything in this group. I know they're ranked 9th in the world, which is amazing to think
think
they're
that, yeah.
9th. They're above Portugal in the world rankings, I think.
I think that has a lot to do with the qualifying campaign.
Yeah, but let's not kid ourselves that anyone thought Denmark would get out of this group. I don't think many people in Denmark would have thought they'd got out of the group.
No. To even get a win is pretty respectable.
I think they've done brilliant, and if they didn't come bottom of the group, that would be a remarkable achievement.
nearly grabbed a draw yesterday as well.
Yeah,
didn't they? That
exactly.
would have
Great strike from Varela, though.
It was a good strike. The first one was a bit dodgy, but they missed the ball. Is it the last goal they missed the ball and then followed it up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How can we see this? What is our definitive top 2?
I
Group
think
B?
Portugal nick a draw against Holland
I
and go
think
through.
Germany and Portugal. Yeah.
Portugal have been very underwhelming, but they got a knack for pulling something out of the bag, so I'd imagine so. Yeah. Group C, Ireland, Italy, Spain, and Croatia. Got a feel for the Irish, surely.
I don't feel for them.
Got a
They
feel
got
for the Irish.
steamrolled.
Why should we feel for them?
Got a feel for the Irish.
lost.
They were so
Lost convincingly
spirit.
as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant. They were there. They've done well to get there. Their fans are enjoying the moment, but they were well and truly outclassed by a better team. There's literally no other way of seeing it.
good side, Ireland.
I mean, when they scored, I was pleased for them when St Ledger got the equaliser, and then the second one was it the second goal that was offside? It looked offside, didn't it? The second
Yeah.
goal, and then. But let's not convince ourselves that would have changed the game, because Croatia were the miles a better team.
They do look good, Croatia. They didn't play very well as well.
Your tip for second place is that they're top of the group as it stands.
Spain versus Italy, and you'll see that game.
Yeah, it was a drab affair.
You joking? I loved it. That was
Spain.
2 teams playing good football, good counter-attacking. It was.
As well, the second half, I'll give you the second half picked up a lot. The first half of that game
I didn't see much.
was
of
a
the first half, to be
non-entity.
fair.
It didn't
if I'm
help that
honest.
Spain had, 6 midfielders?
they didn't play a striker.
striker.
You've got in your squad, you've got Llorente, Torres, Soldado, and you're not playing a striker.
Strange
Almost
bit of
did.
work, but
Dal
strange.
Bosque was giving it. I'd rather play no one than Torres, and then when actually went through with it. Fabregas got the goal though.
New role for Fabregas.
Imagine if Spain play Ireland and played their six. They would probably get about 95% possession if they played 6 midfielders in that game.
Wouldn't be surprised.
But that
Can't
would
see
put Ireland's
Ireland.
best chance at a draw. That would
Can't
be.
see Ireland doing very well in this game, though.
I think the best Ireland can hope for is a draw from this, and
Well, I
luck it on
don't.
goal difference by beating it.
I'm not seeing any way Ireland go through in this group.
No.
I think Ireland.
James McLean.
If Ireland could just pick up a draw in a game, then maybe they go home with their heads held high. But I don't see any way they even get a point now. To be honest, I feel bad that they'll come and lose 3 games and go home. But when you're in a group with Spain, you've already lost to Croatia, and Italy look like that match fixing scandal's not going to have a lasting effect on them.
I was quite impressed by Italy. I've been
Italy
used to
looked
seeing
good side.
Italy defend teams to death. They were quite attacking. It
I
was
could
quite
still
enjoyable
see
to watch.
quite
I can
potent
still
attack,
see
I think.
Croatia beating them, though. I do.
That'll be an interesting game. That's on tonight, isn't it?
And what is Croatia? No, Italy. You know, they got quite a good array of striking options as well. Because although Balotelli has been more in the press for the racism and other off the field antics that are going on, I think he played pretty well until he got a very harsh booking, and the commentator that was commentating on the game seemed to have a bit of a vendetta against him. But I think he played well. Di Natale come on and got the goal. They've got a good midfield backing them up with like Marchisio leading the way and Pirlo. I can't see Italy not getting out of the group.
Pirlo's still about, is he?
What I quite like about this Italy team is most of those play. In fact, I'd imagine pretty much all of them play in the Italian leagues, and I don't think any apart from Balotelli, and none of us follow that. So it's quite interesting to see some new players, some unfamiliar players shining in the tournament.
I think Croatia can beat them tonight and take the second.
That'll be a good game. I'd imagine that'll be a good
Croatia
game.
could win the group then if they won tonight.
Yeah.
Spain looked pretty underwhelming for what you'd expect from Spain.
They always start slow, don't they?
Yeah, they might always start slow, but last time they started slow, they didn't have as difficult group as they've got now.
But they lost their first game.
Yeah, but then they had to play Chile and
Chile are pretty good.
They played two teams that you weren't surprised to see them beat, whereas Croatia in a pretty decent side. I think they drew. I think Spain got lucky that their toughest game was their first game as well. If they're always going to struggle in their first game.
Yeah.
Whereas for Italy, that's opened it up for them now to win today. Even if they draw today, if they drew today, you could feasibly see them possibly winning the group still.
Interesting. So, any of our top goal scorer predictions changed?
Not mine.
Mine
Gomez.
definitely has.
Said Gomez, and he's looking pretty good for that.
I think I've got to change my mind to Gomez because I don't see Ronaldo scoring any goals now.
That Jagoev looks pretty good for Russia.
Alan.
They've got a player called Alan.
I also said Holland to win the tournament. I don't see that happening anymore either.
I think I said Germany. I think I probably did say Germany. I've got some money on it. They're going to win the tournament.
I said Spain and bowled my France prediction. Wish I didn't. But I think still think one of those two teams should win the tournament. I'm not sure on Spain anymore. I'm not sure on France anymore actually. But
Germany
you don't change.
Very good.
Germany look
promising.
Yeah, it looks a bit ominous for the other teams if Germany retain that sort of form. But long way to go. Injuries could happen. A shot result could happen. I would say you could take Germany to penalties, but we know that doesn't work well.
They've been missing penalties of the Germans recently. Not the team, some of their players. Schweinsteiger missed it in the cup final.
Yeah.
And he's usually pretty good for a penalty.
Robin.
He's Dutch.
Oh, so he is.
I think.
I was thinking Bayern Munich, German.
Right, empty seats. So there's a major tournament, and there's empty seats. Why?
Well, you said it, really. Who wants to pay £70 to watch teams like Greece and Russia play each other?
If it was in my country and I couldn't get a ticket for an England game, I would be tempted to watch one of these games.
Yeah, you could go and watch one, but if every person in their head saying I'm going to go and watch one,
yeah,
you need people to go who are local to the area that it's in. So say the people of Donetsk to go and watch the games in Donetsk. I wouldn't spend
160 quid to watch two games. I would not do that.
I mean, it's embarrassing that FIFA are charging that much for tickets in the first place.
In the Olympics, can't you watch two games for £20?
Yeah, you can't get a ticket in the Olympics for anything.
Yeah.
But that says something, doesn't it? Because if the Olympic Committee put tickets that are attainable and people want them, they'll sell out. If they put tickets for £30, £40 for every game, and then for the big countries they put them up a little bit. Yeah. So Ukraine tickets for 50 and 60, and Poland tickets for 50 and 60 in their own countries, and the big nations, maybe there wouldn't be as many empty seats, because it's embarrassing that you watch an England-France game and an England game has no atmosphere and no people there. Usually the one thing you'd expect from England games is a bit of an atmosphere, but the England band weren't allowed in.
They've overturned that now. The England band are going to be in the stadium for tomorrow's... Is it tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow's game against Sweden.
That's Friday, so yeah.
So if we had got the World Cup in 2018 and you couldn't get a ticket to see England, Would you pay £70 to go watch Togo versus Portugal in Old Trafford?
I would be tempted. It's the whole World Cup experience. I wouldn't watch two games.
I'd go to
only
one game because we wouldn't get another World Cup here in our lifetime.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
I'd definitely go to one game.
But I wouldn't.
I wouldn't pay 160.
But let's say like they used 3 stadiums in London. I wouldn't say I'm going to go to all 3, one at each ground, because I'm just thinking, well, that's just completely ripping me off. I'll go to one game. Let's say I can say, oh, I've done a World Cup game, but there's nothing to take them back to these games.
Yeah.
Like, what suggests to them? It's like, oh, well, even if you go to the game, let's say someone went to a Russia game that lived in the local areas where Russia have been playing, and all you see is violence, people fighting all the time.
Yeah.
What's gonna?
You don't wanna go,
what's
right?
gonna drag you back to watch another game there? It's like someone from Poland that's like got sucked up in the football spirit because they've got a tournament here. Said, oh, I'll give it a go. Surely they'd have just been pushed away now. I can't see how this is beneficial for Poland at the minute.
Surely at this point they've just got to start giving the tickets away.
Give them to kids or something in the local
They'll probably give them to
schools.
schools, yeah.
Surely it's got to
Or
be
just lower the prices.
even schools.
Too easy, Craig.
Even screaming school kids have got to be more, easier to handle than a bunch of vuvuzelas that we got at the last tournament.
Bring them back.
Don't bring them back. I'll watch it on mute.
Have you ever seen an England friendly with a bunch of screaming kids? It's a bit worse than the empty stadium, I'd say. But there you go.
But for UEFA, it serves no purpose serving it in front of empty tour. Although I bring the point up again, I would say, like, even after South Africa, take it to a tournament, take it to a country that cares about football. But then you watch the Poland and Ukraine games.
And they clearly do.
They were good, both good crowds. Like, it was buzzing. Yeah, it was absolutely buzzing. Especially that second Poland game was one of the loudest crowds I've heard at a major tournament for a host nation.
I think the one thing going in UEFA's favour in looking at the future for ticket sales in this tournament is that
They need to think about it a bit more.
barring 1 or 2, every game's a cracker. I think this is the most exciting tournament I've seen in a long while.
And it's quite strange that the two of the worst games between some of the best nations.
Yeah.
Like Germany and Portugal and England and France were 2 of the least enjoyable games.
Yeah.
And they're 4 of the best teams in the tournament.
I think some of the games were really good because of the level of football
I think
was a bit
there's more.
lower. The defences were a bit shocking.
Yeah, and I think they a lot of, that Poland and Greece game, even though it ended up a draw, you could tell both of them knew that they needed to win the game and really could do a win in it, and both went for it to win the game, and it was 10 against 10, so there was more space on the pitch. That was the most perfect way to kick off a tournament, those two.
I think we all expected it to be a drab affair.
Yeah, and
I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I think both of Poland's game have been 2 of the best games I think I've seen in this tournament. And then I'd make the argument that Ukraine's game is another one of the... if you pick the top 5 best games of the tournament so far, I think both Poland games and the Ukraine game were in the top 5.
Yeah.
The Ukraine game was very enjoyable.
And then you had the brilliance of Shevchenko scoring twice.
Can't believe he's still knocking around.
And then he made his debut... What was it? I think he made his debut like 3 years after Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain was born. He made his international debut. And he's still here scoring goals. He scored 49, 50 goals.
Got an eye for goal, obviously.
Yeah, you never believe it. His second goal, he comes out and he's outside the 6-yard box. He's ahead of the post. And he's headed it back.
Brilliant. It's such a shame that Shevchenko's career, well, in this country, will be marred for his spell at Chelsea. Because before he went to Chelsea,
he was a class striker.
He's in the top 3 deadliest finishers in the world.
Well, his record for Chelsea isn't particularly bad. I think he got 22 goals in 70 appearances.
People expected better, didn't they?
Yeah, well, for the money you paid for him. But going into the tournament, there was a lot of talk that the Ukraine fans and the Polish fans a little bit racist. We seen any of that?
There's been
snippets.
There's been a few. There was the one with the Dutch at their training session.
Yeah.
And then there was the one with Balotelli.
I haven't heard about that one.
Apparently Balotelli was racially abused. I think it was during the Spain game.
It, I think.
And I remember there being... But I was talking to this with someone yesterday, and they were just saying how each time there's a racial incident, UEFA keep referring to it as an isolated incident. Where surely it gets to a point where
it's no longer isolated.
Like, if there's 3 in 4 days, how can they be isolated anymore? Unless what they're saying is, there's not 2 at the same time, so that means it's an isolated one. Surely it just seems to me UEFA are sort of turning their back to it, and like saying
Don't like to
we
admit it,
we
do
don't
they?
want to be involved in this. We picked these two nations, so we're going to support them to the hilt.
Yeah.
I think that the racism's been a bit overmad by certain teams' violence at the
The
tournament.
fan fighting's been worse than the
Russia.
racism.
It's
They
been
want to batter everyone inside, don't they?
Russia.
I can kind of understand the Poland-Russia rivalry, because there's a rivalry there. But they just
Well, on their first game, they started beating the stewards up, and then they start. I'm not sure if it was them, but there was Croatian fans, Irish fans. It might have been Russia as well, and Poland, just in a street brawling, which lended it to like, one arrest for Ireland fans, like 3 Croat fans, and quite a few Russians and Poles got arrested. And then they're fighting with Poland again. Just they ditched Croatia and Ireland this time and thought they'd just go at it, just the two of them.
They got 6 point suspended point sentence.
Yes,
deduction.
well,
Yeah.
they haven't had the deduction, have they? It's if they make one more mistake, they get 6 points deducted.
For the World Cup qualifying, is
European 2016,
Is
because
this-
they've not got UEFA haven't got the right to do it for the FIFA tournament.
it?
Yeah.
Is this the right decision?
I don't think it should be
Send it
suspended. I
Yeah,
think.
just give them a point
And
deduction.
what sort of message does that send? You can
Do it twice,
You
but-
can fight in this tournament and you can stay in this tournament all the way, but we'll hold it against you in 4 years' time or 2 years' time. Surely it should say you're
a
out
bit
of this
unfair on the fans in 4 years'
Well, you should be
time,
out
isn't
of
it?
this tournament.
Yeah.
They are actually kick them out now, though. They have been playing the
don't
best.
know, why?
best
Yeah, but
football in
if
Group
your
A.
fans can't behave themselves,
Not really the players' fault.
no, but that's surely the nation's fault. How do you punish them then?
It's difficult, isn't it?
Surely,
I'd imagine what they should have done is I don't know.
yeah. See, the best way to punish the fans is through
If you punish
hitting
the
them.
team, the fans ain't going to do it no more, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
You said to them now you get a 3 point deduction, and you have to win their last game. Their fans aren't going to put a foot wrong in that last game.
The worst thing about it, though,
Unless they lose it.
they're hosting a major tournament in 6 years. They
Well,
got the biggest tournament. They got the World Cup.
Well, we'll have the same problem then as we do now.
Yeah.
Racism.
I'd say it's even
fan
worse in Russia than
violence.
it is in
It's
Ukraine. Poland.
It's just ridiculous that FIFA and UEFA give tournaments to these nations that obviously aren't equipped and morally accepted of different races, different
If you
cultures,
don't
and
give them
bringing
these-
them all together.
If you don't give them these tournaments, they ain't going to... They'll soon realise they've got a problem and try to sort it out. If you say, no, we're not giving it you. Whereas at the moment, they're sending a message, yeah, this stuff's fine.
They feel the need to like distribute it fairly throughout continents. So like, as the last one was in Africa for the first time, they got to go to South America again because they haven't been there for a while, and now they got to go back to Europe. But surely just go to the best candidates. And if you are going to come to Europe, even if a team's like had a major tournament recently, why not just give them another one? Why not give Holland and Belgium it again? Why not give England another one? Why not give France another one? Somewhere where you know you can have a good tournament and the
not gonna
fans
be
will
mad
behave
by
themselves.
violence.
Yeah. So that was a bit serious, that podcast. All kicking off.
Not us, it was the Russians.
Where's all the Russians? Right, so we'll put this on iTunes. I think we'll put this on YouTube a couple of days afterwards. For people who have a reason to want to download it before it goes on YouTube. Thanks for listening to it on YouTube, by the way. We got like 60 views, which is pretty good. We genuinely have people to listen to it, so that's quite good. I don't know when Josh has got time off next. We'll hopefully get Josh
We
back.
sort of should use Josh now, as we've not used him for 2 episodes.
I think the problem with that was you've got a life you need to sort out,
Yeah.
and it sort of clashed with the
always
podcast.
gets in the way.
So yeah, we'll get him back next week, hopefully, and we'll see you then.
Yep.
Still got to figure out a way to finish these though.
Take care.